Hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome back again to this third edition of our Adventure Uncovered conversation series. Thank you so much for joining us the past few weeks and for coming back again today. If this is the first time you're joining us, boy, have you picked a good one. We're really excited today because we are launching our new editions, which is our Adventure Uncovered online series. And this is going to be stories, blogs, and Q&As all online for us to still engage with our Adventure Uncovered community. We're really excited to be launching this. And the very first theme of this first ever editions is the UK Adventure Uncovered. We figured we'll start close to home, and therefore we're really excited for the timing of this evening's conversations, because who better to launch our UK Adventure Uncovered theme than the artist who helped us to create and curate our UK Adventure Uncovered map. I'm talking, of course, about Bryony Benge-Abbott. Bryony, hi, give us a wave.
Hi.
So Bryony is the artist, curator, and incredible environmental nature advocate behind our Adventure Uncovered map. We're going to show you some pictures of that after this short broadcast. Bryony got involved with Adventure Uncovered a while ago and has been working with us to help to display and tell the stories of some amazing parts of the UK. You're going to hear all about it in just a second. So first, what we're going to do is play a broadcast of a conversation that I had with Bryony a couple of weeks ago now, all about her work and her work with Adventure Uncovered as part of that. After that's played out, we're going to come back to myself and Bryony here live tonight to answer any of the live questions that you have. So if you're watching throughout the broadcast, it's about 20 minutes long. Pop your questions in the live chat on the left-hand side of the screen, and we'll get to those at the end. So this is your chance to ask Bryony directly any questions you have about her work with Adventure Uncovered or in general. So without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into that conversation that I had with Bryony. Hope you enjoy. See you back here soon.
Today we're in conversation with Bryony Benge-Abbott, who's a London-based visual artist, designer, curator. She founded Bryony in Bloom in 2013, and we worked with Bryony at the Adventure Uncovered Film Festival. She was the creative person behind the UK Adventure Uncovered map, which we took to all of our tour locations and asked people to come forward and stitch onto the map their favourite places for adventure in the UK, hidden gems and secret spots. We met Bryony through Ellie, and Ellie and Bryony are good friends, and so we thought it would be nice to put the two of them in conversation with each other, to talk about the map, to talk about the film festival, but also to talk more generally about Bryony's work and how she uses art and her paintings to try and connect people to places and to the environment. So, over to you, Ellie.
Okay, perfect. I'm so excited about this one because obviously, Bryony, you and I go way back. Bryony is somebody that I have admired for years. You're just such a force of nature, bundle of energy, and incredibly talented artist. So I'm really, really pleased to have seen your interaction with Adventure Uncovered, because I've been working with Adventure Uncovered and I've been working with you, and for me it's this perfect kind of blending and you know, collaboration of these two kind of creative, community focused outlets that I really care about. So thank you so much for joining me today for this conversation. I can see you're in the most beautiful studio. Is this your creative space?
It is at the moment. Yeah, it's my temporary studio during this lockdown period. But yeah, so I'm kind of surrounded by paintings, which I see you also are.
Yep.
Background's amazing.
So this is these are two of Bryony's pieces. as my background, and you can immediately already see, Bryony, I'm about to ask you what sort of type of art you do, and we can already see a bit of a clue from both of our videos. But could you maybe just start off by telling us, you know, you are an artist, but what's your background and your themes that you're exploring within your work?
My work's really inspired by landscapes and by botany, really. So my company name, my studio name is Bryony and Bloom, so the clue is in the title. And yeah, it's really about immersing myself in different landscapes, kind of translating my experiences of that and communicating my experiences of that through paint and other mediums as well. But yeah.
And we can see that the keyword there being bloom, Bryony and Bloom, and you've mentioned botanicals, and we can see in a lot of your work. And do check out Bryony's website, because it's amazing. And again, it's very immersive, beautiful, colourful, vibrant space. You can see instantly from your work that it is this idea of blooming. And there is a particular quote that kind of inspired the phrase Bryony and Bloom.
Oh yeah, it was bloom where you're planted, which I think is actually a Christian quote, but I've kind of taken it really literally. I came across that quote when I was traveling in Kenya, and it just really inspired my thinking about what kind of role my art can play, my public realm art. And for me it means it means growing in any kind of space, despite any kind of challenges or adversity. It's just really about, people thriving, communities thriving, individuals thriving in those spaces and showing the best of themselves and feeling like they're able to really bloom in their own unique, special ways. And it's also been kind of, I've taken it a bit more literally in that I'm also been focusing on celebrating more kind of like weeds or plants that are more easily overlooked, that are kind of just sprouting through the cracks in the pavement or kind of growing through. I think it's extraordinary how plants could just grow through brick walls and just, make the most wonderful kind of appearance in the most unlikely of places. So the kind of lens of my gaze has shifted since discovering that quote as well, in terms of which plants I'm highlighting and why.
I love that. I think the idea of blooming where you're planted, and as you say, this message to really make the most and to grow into your space and to use what you have around you, it sort of contrasts and complements the Adventure Uncovered kind of storytelling narrative a lot as well, because we're always saying go out into the world and create your own adventures and find your place in the world, as though it's somewhere else, as though you have to go off over the horizon to another land to find yourself, find your perspective on the world. And whilst that's true, I also like that rhetoric of look around your current surroundings and see what you can make of the area around you. And you don't have to go off and climb Everest to be an adventurer. We talk here at Adventure Uncovered a lot about finding what adventure means to you, and it might be a micro adventure, it might be something local, it might be your own backyard, literally. And so I think that ties quite nicely with your idea of bloom where you're planted, as in experience everything you can around you and see how you can be more connected to your own surroundings through your community, but literally through the land, and how you might sort of rediscover something that you see every day. Does that sort of
that totally, I can see that. I love that connection, and I think there's something really empowering about bloom where you're planted as well. And that idea of you don't have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to go on these epic adventures for those Instagram kind of perfect shots and all that kind of FOMO side. I think there is definitely obviously a kind of a self-discovery that one kind of has in occupying different and new spaces and exploring different spaces. But I think there is something really beautiful and empowering about kind of saying actually where you are is rich with adventure and experiences, but there's something about the disconnection with our kind of wild instincts as well, that I think is something that's interesting and plays around in my mind whilst I'm painting, whilst I'm planning projects. And how can we kind of unlock that kind of ancient wisdom and that ancient reverence for kind of ritual with the natural environment in ourselves. We all have it, you know, and I think we become so isolated and shut off from that part of us.
That's really important, that sort of two layers really of connection that you've talked about there. One is that idea of either encouraging us to go out into the wild and explore these places and have that physical earthing and the kind of fresh air and the natural fibers and textures and health of being out in the wild. Then what I really like about your work as well, and what you explore, is this higher level, this deeper layer of connection, which, you know, you talked that just then about reverence and ritual, and almost it's sort of almost like a religious or a spiritual connection to nature. And I know that you've been working on some new pieces around this idea of, you know, the woodland cathedral and our sort of spiritual connection to nature. And is that something that you've found really enlightening on your journey with your work?
I have been really kind of trying to explore this idea of spirituality and its connection to nature, right? So like, if you don't subscribe to a particular religion, for example, what does the natural environment offer you in terms of spiritual nourishment? Where do you go? I don't know. Personally, I've had 2 serious bereavements in the last 6 months of both of my parents, and I have been finding a lot of comfort and I don't know, space to reflect in going into the natural environment. It's been and there's something as well about seeing the seasonal cycles and a real acknowledgement that life goes on regardless, and it's that's a beautiful thing. And there is this cycle of new life and death constantly around you in the natural environment. And I think there's something about that I've needed that to reconnect with that personally. And so my new paintings are really kind of just starting to explore the idea of sacred spaces in nature. And also, you know, kind of going back to that idea of time is, you know, thinking about ancestors as well. So I've been really interested in kind of rereading kind of folklore and kind of myths and legends connected to the land that our ancestors conjured up, you know, inspired by the same lands that have changed so dramatically in so many ways. But I love...
That's so cool. I love that, because for me, you know, when you're talking just then about this idea of, you know, rebirth and life going on and the natural cycle of things, and that being very healing, for me, I sort of see the same thing, even just from a biological, as a scientist, you go into the forest, you see these ancient giants, and then you see these little green buds emerging with this mammoth task ahead of them to, you know, to try and grow up to meet their ancestors. And that idea of generational kind of presence and stability. So I really love that blend, and I think it's something that you know, it's certainly one of the reasons why we were really pleased to have you involved with the Adventure Uncovered map. Can you tell us a little bit about what this sort of meant to you, what the story is there behind this beautiful map that we now have at Adventure Uncovered to take around all of our film festivals with us?
Yeah, so the map idea came about when I had a phone call from Rosie telling me about the film festival that was upcoming, and she said that everyone was really the Adventure Uncovered team were really keen to find a way to enable visitors to the film festival, attendees to the film festival, to contribute their recommendations and their tips for adventures local to home, so staying within the United Kingdom. For me at that time, I had just been spending a lot more of my time in Kent, in really rural Kent, which was my childhood, a lot of my childhood was spent there. And I had been revisiting and rediscovering some of the most kind of magical places that I remember kind of playing in and really kind of losing so much time as a kid playing there. So it needed to be lightweight, it needed to be portable, it needed to go to all of the different film festivals. And I was really keen. Obviously, at the film festivals, everyone's having quite a digital experience. There were the Q&As, but there's also a lot of kind of sitting down and watching all of the amazing films. And so I wanted this interactivity to be really kind of tactile and tangible. So what we did was I created a map on a huge stretch canvas, so that attendees could stitch in on recycled or scrap bits of paper, little tags, their own tips, and literally kind of place them in to the tiny kind of Isle of Skye or down in Portsmouth or wherever, and so people could stand back and really kind of get a sense of the clusters of where all the different recommendations are. And it was nice because I saw attendees kind of rifling through the tips, and there's just something, I don't know, like that kind of more analog experience I'm quite enjoying at the moment. And it was things like that, that really I really loved about the tips was you get the best kind of camping spots or the best kind of beaches and those kind of tips, but also people are saying don't forget to stop off at this chippy or check out that tea room, or and it's just, and there's lovely kind of the best pie ever from this pub or whatever, and it's just and then it's really lovely to be able to kind of follow those recommendations. I don't know, you've got that personal connection in mind when you're actually then going to have that fantastic party as part of your mini UK adventure. I think that's just a really lovely quality to this map. It's just so much more human, isn't it, really? And I think what's lovely is, so I'm obviously quite new to the Adventure Uncovered community, but I get my experience of it so far, and my sense of it is that it is such a generous community and everyone really wants to support and help each other. And so this is just a really lovely way, now that it's becoming a digital interactive as well, to really open up those tips and recommendations, to anyone who wants to be to join this part of this community and benefit from the knowledge and experience that they have. And it just feels so much more personal, human, intimate. I guess there's an intimacy about it, isn't it? Like you can picture that person, even if don't actually know them, and it's just it's just, you can picture someone else taking that part rather than just like a guidebook or whatever. It's
totally. I love the way that what you've done is use your sort of art and this idea of the analog and the interactivity of it to really create something that everybody can get involved with. So it's
much
brilliant.
more inclusive, and that's the thing that I love about any kind of project I'm involved in. If there's a way to make it really inclusive and open it up so that others participate or be kind of enriched by it or inspired by it, then sign me up. I love those projects.
Tell us about your latest project.
Yes, so my new project, it came about really as I was reflecting on how blessed I am right now to be in the Kent countryside during this lockdown, during the period of isolation and social distancing. It's just the healing power of art, just picking up a pencil or a paintbrush and just what that does to your blood pressure, and experience and the knowledge of the healing power of being in nature as well, kind of combined to come up with this idea of zines, of colouring zines. So these zines, the collection is called Roots, and there's I've launched with just 2 at the moment, but I'm working on a 3rd, and there's many more to come, and they are all kind of shining a light on a different aspect of our botanical heritage here, right? So they're a mixture of kind of they're kind of like artist sketchbooks, so they're full of all of my drawings, my illustrations, but I've modified them so that people can colour them in.
Amazing.
And then I've also got some kind of notes, which are some are more kind of botanical, scientific, and others are little folklore stories or kind of more kind of like childhood remembrances, and they each raise money for different charities, because I'm also, we've also been hearing so much about how different charities are really struggling right now to cope with this pandemic, to keep their operations going. The funding has all, and will be really affected. So for me, it felt really important to use these zines as a way to raise some money for some of those charities that are doing really kind of vital work right now.
It sounds amazing. I love the combination that you haven't just done a colouring book, and as we know, adult colouring books are all the rage and really phenomenally powerful in terms of mental health. I was lucky enough to be able to do some painting with you in Tobago, and it really is such a meditative, sort of almost trance-like, peaceful and calming. It's just such an amazing experience just to sit and colour. And I'm not an artist at all, so for me, you know, colouring pencils or a paintbrush is very alien, and yet I just found it, you know, very relaxing and calming. So can you tell us about the two first editions, the two first themes, and which charities you're supporting with those two?
Yeah, so I'm started with two zines that support St Mungo's, the homeless shelter, and Rape Crisis England and Wales. They're called the one supporting St Mungo's is called Resilient Roots, and the one supporting Rape Crisis is Spring Roots. I've worked with both of those charities before. I created artworks for them. So they are they're small little A5 booklets, and they are just jam-packed with facts and folklore, basically. And they're £12.50, and 50% of all profits are going towards those charities, and there will be more. So,
and we should say as well, something I think is lovely is that it's not just the financial profit which you're generously donating to the charities, but they will also then receive copies of those zines themselves, so that they can be given out to the people who use those particular charities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so pleased about this. The charities both said that colouring zines and activities like that right now are just in huge demand for clients, and are supporting the counselling and the therapy work that the charities are providing at the moment. So I'm so pleased to be able to send those to those charities. In fact, after this call, I'm going to the post office to send a huge pack.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, we won't keep you any longer then. We'll let you go and post those zines out to the nation. I'm really excited for mine to arrive. I'm really excited. I've sent them to, you know, friends and family and so on. I really hope everybody gets behind these zines. I think they're just fabulous, fun. It's an activity. It's going to keep us busy. It's also going to keep us sane, as well as learning some great things and being immersed in some brilliant folklore, and of course helping some really fantastic causes. So where can people go to order some copies from you?
They can go to my online shop on my website, which is bryonyandbloom.com.
Okay, well, thank you for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed that conversation with myself and Bryony. As you can see, she's an amazingly talented artist and has got fantastic ideas about how to encourage us to connect more with nature. So as we saw earlier, I am now joined by Bryony. Hi, Bryony.
Hello.
Bryony, just firstly, give us a little bit of an update. Where are you based at the moment? You're still down in Kent?
Yes, I'm still very much in kind of deepest, darkest rural Kent. So actually, just forgive me if my internet plays up a little bit.
Will do. And one of the first questions that we've actually had come through is related to that. This is a question from Rachel in Oxford. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Rachel's asked, what are your favourite outdoor places in Kent or beyond that inspire your work?
So I've been in Kent for like best part of the last year, really. So it's been really heavily inspiring my work. I guess I would say Hempstead Forest, which is in just outside of Benenden near Cranbrook, which is in the Weald of Kent. It's a beautiful forest that I've spent a lot of time in the last 12 months. And it's kind of really inspiring my work because I've been I spent a lot of my childhood in that forest, playing games with like local kids and stuff. We were kind of feral. We used to run around and play like hide and seek in the forest and stuff. So it's quite interesting going back as an adult, quite a few years later, and remembering that childlike glee of kind of being completely immersed and lost in the forest. And I've been really interested. My practice is really at the moment exploring this idea of memory traces, and kind of in my paintings kind of layering memories in terms of space and time. So like tracing those steps in Hempstead Forest has been really evocative for me, and some really beautiful areas in that forest. There's a kind of area of birch and beech trees that as kids we used to call Hobbiton. It looked Amazing. A little bit like Lord of the Rings.
It's really beautiful. I've been lucky enough to visit your neck of the woods, literally, and you've shown me Hobbiton. It really is beautiful. And it's something I like, that what you say there about the sort of child, like returning to childhood, and that idea of rediscovery or reconnection with places that we grew up with. It's funny that for me, and I don't know if you would agree with this, for me, returning to a woodland or a beach or a natural place from my childhood, it feels much more familiar, despite the fact it's probably changed significantly. All those trees have grown, they're all twice the size, or they're completely replaced with different flowers. And yet I feel more connection and familiarity to those than returning to, say, a building or a home from 20 or 30 years ago. I just wonder why that is, really. Do you get that sense?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why. I wouldn't be able to answer that, but maybe it's about being living beings, like in the same space. I don't know, but like Hobbiton is definitely no longer the Hobbiton it used to be. It's been thinned a lot, but it's still, I don't know, yeah, it kind of really conjures up that memory. That's been inspiring my work. But beautiful. Yeah, it's great to share it with you.
So that forest, definitely. What about beyond? Rachel's asking, anywhere outside of Kent?
Earlier on this year I went to Skye. And that was in February. I've never been to Scotland in the thick of winter, so that was epic. And I felt incredibly overwhelmed by the scale and the kind of the beauty and the kind of the shifting skies, within seconds. It's like sleek grey to kind of completely thick white snowstorms, and that was absolutely kind of mind-blowingly beautiful. So I've been trying to kind of capture that kind of energy in my paintings as well, that sense of movement and change. And also just feeling really small, like I felt tiny in Skye. And it's, the mountains and the highlands, oh my gosh. Yeah, they just make you feel like really tiny and insignificant. And I kind of, I enjoyed that experience, and I'm trying to play with that in my paintings as well.
It's funny because instead of feeling overwhelmed or insignificant in a negative way, you feel very enveloped and very kind of not enclosed, that's not the right word, but definitely embraced by those huge mountains or vast expanses. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
So this is then sort of following on that we're talking about places in the UK. This, obviously, we've just heard in the conversation that we had with you about the map and this beautiful piece. I've got some photos to just show as well while we're talking. So we're really proud to announce, as part of that UK editions, our online UK Adventure Uncovered series, that map has now been digitized, hasn't it? And how does that make you feel as an artist to see sort of we talked in the discussion about being tactile and analog, and now it's digital. So how does that feel, that transition?
Oh, well, it was wonderful to create the kind of the physical map and to have that experience in the film festivals. But I just think, particularly right now, this is a brilliant time to open it up so that, so many more people can participate and access that information, that knowledge. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've already been back and kind of checked through, and I'm looking forward to following and seeing what new places being added, and when life returns to normal, actually picking up some of those tips and going on to mini explorations myself around the UK. But I think there's a place for both, isn't there? Like digital and analog. And my work is mostly in the physical realm, so it's really curious for me. I'm interested to see what kind of how this evolves now that it's got this digital life.
Amazing. Yeah, and it's something that you've just said there is about the current situation. It's all the more important to be able to access these artworks in a digital form, and sort of what you might lose in one element you gain in a different from that transition of medium. We've had a question through about how the pandemic has affected you as an artist. What sort of impact has it had on your work, and what sort of plans do you have for post-COVID?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's obviously affected quite. I do street art murals, public murals, and I had a few of those lined up to be getting on with during the summer and in the autumn, and they've all been postponed, or so. Hopefully, I can pick them up once it's safe to do so. But the plus side has been that it's been a good opportunity for me to get back into my oil painting practice. So I've been spending a lot more time in the studio, obviously. I mean, I'm in a temporary studio right now, but surrounded by my oil paintings, doing a lot more research and reading and developing that kind of practice. And I have some ideas for an exhibition post-lockdown of this work. So I've been I've been able to really I guess indulge a bit more in the conceptual development of my practice. And also it's made me come up with new ways to involve, my street art practice is very kind of community engagement based. And this lockdown period has made me come up with some different ideas about how to engage the public in the things that I find fascinating about nature and nature connection. So I've come up with the idea of these colouring zines, which are now live on my website. And I'm using this project to raise money for different charities who are struggling to find money at the moment. But this is like a lovely new outlet that I wouldn't have ever imagined creating before the pandemic. It's come out of the necessity of needing to be able to not needing to, but wanting to share, my love of art and my love of nature in a way that can be posted, that can be quite easily made in a small space, very DIY, very responsive to the orders as they come in, not mass production or anything, keeping it very sustainable and small scale. So that's been an interesting shift in my practice.
Sounds absolutely amazing. And this is something as well that we should talk about more, because you said that you corrected yourself, you said needed to, and then corrected yourself to want to. Maybe it is a need, maybe it is, this was driven by a need for you to be able to contribute your work as a creative outlet for yourself. I know that a lot of people have been really struggling with lockdown and being physically trapped. And for our adventure community, there's lots of people watching, I'm sure, who are used to being out and about a lot more than they currently are, both in the UK and internationally. And it's very difficult to feel pent up without this creative outlet, without something to do. People have all started baking, knitting, and just trying to find a creative outlet for their their creative mind, I suppose. So, in one way, maybe that was a way for you to express that need. But what I love is that you've turned it into something really, really powerful. So tell us more about these zines. There's a series of different zines. Can you take us through what's currently available?
Yeah, so there's a series, they're called Roots. We talked about it a bit in the film beforehand. At the moment, there's 3 of them available on my website, and they are really about, it's a way to reconnect with nature that we're disconnected to at the moment, enforced disconnection. They are celebrations of different types of plants and landscapes, and they're a marriage really of my interest in science and botany and my interest in spiritual ecology, and the conduit is art, really. So they are small little booklets, and it's a kind of a space, an invitation to have a bit more of a meditative, kind of mindful experience of colouring in these drawings and reading some folklore and learning a little bit more about our native plant life, as well as African plant life, because I've just released one that's supporting Black Lives Matter and other charities that are campaigning on behalf of Black and ethnic minorities, and that's a celebration of African flora. But the other two are very much kind of based in the UK landscape and the UK plants, and it's just hopefully just a peaceful and kind of healing in some way kind of experience. I find art very healing, especially when you feel locked or kind of locked in, trapped. I think it's good, and it's good to kind of get you kind of thinking beyond your current confines, takes you to new spaces.
Totally. I think that they are incredibly powerful. And you mentioned there the latest edition, which came out quite rapidly in response to the current situation with Black Lives Matter. Can you tell us a little bit more about the African Roots episode? What would you call it? Edition?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the different artists that were involved, or kind of what's involved.
Yeah. So what's been great about this is I've been able to involve some other artists. I'm part of a Black arts agency that's kind of all about promoting, celebrating UK Black artists, called Disrupt Space. And totally in response of everything that we saw in the States and all the conversations we were having in the UK. I was always going to do an African roots scene, but I kind of bumped it up. I needed to kind of really work on it right now to kind of process and channel some of the feelings that were emerging in response, and I invited a few artists from the agency to join in with this creative project. And so it's a mixture of my drawings, my illustrations, and the illustrations of Lola Betiku, Sharon Adebisi, Isis Rahim, and Lee White Samuels. All exploring, I'll keep talking, all exploring the like African flora that really has inspired me. I visited Africa so many times, and for me personally, like Africa, my visits to Africa have been really formative in the development of my studio. It was the first time I went there was when I kind of discovered Wangari Maathai and her Greenbelt movement, and that really inspired the ethos and mission of my practice of my studio. And also it's where I heard Bloom Where You're Planted, which inspired the name of the studio. And I think we my trip to Africa kind of really opened my eyes to how extraordinarily beautiful and kind of inspiring the continent is. It was way more than I had imagined from what I'd seen on the news and what I'd learned about in school. And so I'm really pleased to be able to kind of share some of those extraordinary plants and trees that really captivated my imagination so many years ago in this scene.
That's amazing that you sort of come full circle with it. I didn't realize that was the same, the origin of the quote, "The bloom where you're planted." That's brilliant. I did just pop off just then to collect. My post arrived today, and I'm so happy and excited because I've just received the first 2 editions, which is Spring Roots and Resilient Roots of Bryony's incredible zines. They are absolutely beautiful. I'm saving them for the weekend. I'm going to do some colouring, some painting, try and use my skills, but they are filled with poetry and with stories and with beautiful drawings. I definitely won't be able to do them justice, but I'm going to give my best shot at colouring those in. So Bryony, where can we get copies of these?
From my store, which is bryonyandbloom.com.
Perfect. Well, definitely I would encourage everybody to head to the website bryonyandbloom.com, pick up a copy of those. The proceeds go to amazing charities, really beneficial causes. As Bryony said, as we've just been talking about, the act of of art, of colouring, drawing, immersing yourself in natural art is so healing at this point. And for those of us in the adventure community who are feeling, you know, a little bit trapped indoors, especially this week with the weather's been turned bad again, what better thing to do than to get your pens out and start doing some colouring. Absolutely amazing. And Bryony, are you going to be around on Twitter for the rest of the evening? Can we ping you some tweets if we've got more questions?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
And what's your handle? What's your Twitter account?
It's at Bryony and Bloom. So yeah. Yeah, no, do ping me some questions.
And do check it out, because there's some beautiful examples of your work on there. There's a couple of videos as well on your website of the creation of some of your pieces. And then if people want to do their socially distanced exercise and head out to Greenwich, Islington, where else could they maybe see?
Oh, and Hammersmith, but that's that's the homeless shelter, so probably don't.
But one in Greenwich and one in Islington. You can find the information on Bryony's website. And if you do happen to be walking past, then snap a picture and put it on Instagram, tag Bryony.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see how they're doing. So yeah, if you do see the murals.
Do you sort of feel like they're your sort of babies?
Oh, a little bit. I don't know. It's like, well, once you walk away, you've left it to, you know, it's the communities, right? But it's just nice to get. I love it when people tag me in photos of the murals when they've discovered them. I'm like, oh, these, it's still doing its thing. That's good. I'm happy. But yeah, no, you have to obviously hand over the public murals to the people who live and work in that space. Can't be protective of it. It's theirs now. So.
It's amazing, and what an incredible legacy to kind of pass on for them to look after for future generations. I'm really excited to see the work that you're creating whilst you're you know, in your own Hobbiton, and to see this exhibition. So if we follow you on social media, and we can sort of sign up for updates and things to find out about the exhibition that hopefully will be towards the end of this year.
Yeah, hopefully. And it will be, you know, kind of a lot of the work will be really based in the UK, you know, about the UK landscape as well. And we'll have that kind of spiritual dimension to it. There's a lot of my work at the moment kind of looking at sacred spaces and kind of spiritual experiences in the landscape, and very much, you know, Scotland, Kent, Ireland, Yorkshire. There's quite a lot of paintings kind of being developed at the moment that are very much about the UK landscape. So follow me on the old socials, and I'll keep everyone posted. And I just want to encourage everyone to like get on the UK adventure map. I want to see the tips and the all the recommendations, like, so that we can start getting excited about where we're going to go when we have a bit more freedom, right? Like.
Absolutely. I think that could be such a fantastic little challenge for everybody over the next few days, to jump onto that Adventure Uncovered map online and have a scout around, read everybody's tips and add your own. And maybe we can all choose somewhere that we're going to go as soon as we're allowed. And then we can kind of plan a trip, maybe a weekend camping or a bit of a road trip, cycling, walking. Let's all choose one of those adventures, and if you tag Adventure Uncovered, tag Bryony in there as well, we can sort of create a community of planned adventures, and maybe we can all get together and do some together. It would be really exciting to see how this map is used by the community, and hopefully contributed to, and it grows and grows and grows. And then we'll have to do every other country as well, won't we?
Yeah, I think for sure. But I'm really looking forward to, as well as kind of planning, you know, my next kind of adventure in another part of the UK. I'm also going to be keeping an eye whilst I'm based in Kent to see what people add in the Garden of England. So if anyone's got any tips other than Hempstead Forest and Pet Level, I love Pet Level, and I love Daringwood in Pluckley, and but other tips in the kind of Kent Sussex area, like add them. I'd love to find some micro adventures nearby that I've not been on before.
Perfect. Well, that's absolutely brilliant. We're out of time already. Thank you so much, Bryony, for joining us again and for all of your work with Adventure Uncovered. The map is beautiful and we can't wait to get started. We're definitely going to be ordering and supporting yourself and the charities in these zines. Do check them out. They are absolutely stunning. They'd be great gifts. They'd be great activities for anybody in your family to keep us all busy on a rainy day. We'll stay in touch and we'll see what you do next. And for everybody else, do check out our UK Adventure Uncovered editions, our very first edition online. There's some amazing interviews, there's Q&As, there's blogs, there's all sorts of information in there. It's absolutely wonderful. Get yourself a cup of tea and sit down. Do what I call bedditing, which is where you have your laptop in bed, snuggle up and dive into that website, because there's all sorts of amazing things in there for you to discover. So it's goodbye from me. Thank you so much, Bryony, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no worries. We'll definitely stay in touch. We'll see what you do next. For everybody who's interested in joining, next week we have yet another fantastic guest next week. That is Calum Hudson and Amy Walker. Calum Hudson is one of the Wild Swimming brothers, and Amy is an outdoor swimmer. She's also a wild swimmer. So we'll be joined by both of them tomorrow. That's Thursday at 7 for a conversation with them about getting out in the wild and getting wet and cold and invigorated from that. So do join us again next week. In the meantime, check out the website, as I said, and give us some feedback on the editions, because we always love to have feedback from our community and find out what you want to hear more of for our next edition. And so that's all for now for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. See you again very soon. Bye.
Bye.